Okay, let's kind of put our knowledge from our path tracer and just create a nice little scene. So we've got a blank level and we're gonna start with all the regular sky atmospheres. Find our center, position it like so. We're gonna need a directional light. Position it like so, set it to movable. Next up, let's grab a skylight, also place it here, reference atmosphere, and we pretty much have everything set up. Let's grab an exponential height fog and place it like so. And finally, we're gonna need a post-process volume. I kind of like to have everything grouped around the center of the map and make sure it's unbound. We're kind of gonna set these up as needed as time goes on. So let's grab our Gen 4 ocean here. The current defaults are pretty good. Let's simulate a little bit, and oh dear, we seem to have ground truth normals enabled, and yep, this pretty much has fixed our issues. Now, the current build in this sort of little project here is a little bit older, so some things are going to be different. When in doubt, just refer to the previous showcase video where we kind of show everything off properly. Right now, we're in lit mode, so we can afford to increase the grid density a little bit, something like 3. And let's see, are we using 2 cascades or just 1? And next up, I would like to have a sort of calmer, make sure it's at 2K. Get rid of the micro displacement and maybe dial down the wind speed a little bit. 6, 5, 6 seems to be pretty good. The fetch, I would like to be 2 is a pretty good middle ground. And everything else is pretty good. Now, let's start playing around with our sun to get some nice reflections going on. To make sure we have a clear picture, let's change our screen percentage, whoops, to 1 to sharpen. And there we go. We have a pretty good idea of what we're doing. Right now, we've simulated a little bit of ocean, so we could pause it. Let's enable our path traced ocean grid. And let's go into, oops, path tracing over here. And things are looking pretty good. We have a nice sort of responsive viewport with these parameters, grid scale. Oh, let's set this to 0 so we can get even more details. And overall, yeah, this is pretty good, something we could work with. Let's bring in our fog and everything as expected. First of all, make sure the path tracer is referencing the sky atmosphere, which of course is going to spawn this plane, and we're just going to move everything a little bit higher, like so. And things are looking pretty good. For post-process, actually something else that's really nice is if we could just enable the higher quality bloom here. It's gonna make it nice and cinematic like so, and maybe a little bit of chromatic aberration, 0.3, something like 0.5. And while we're at it, why not add a little bit of a lens flare. Something a bit more subtle. I think the intensity, yeah, during path tracing seems to be a bit higher. So we're just going to dial this way down. Something like this is pretty good, although we're gonna make some adjustments down the line probably. Set up our exponential height fog as volumetric so we could see it. Drastically increase the distance. This is pretty good. Just a small tweak to the albedo. And we are pretty much all set and good to go with our atmospherics and everything. So something really nice with the path tracer is that it uses a very high quality refraction that we could probably make some good use here. So let's do that and go all the way out and grab some mega scans. So we've imported a couple of Quixel mega scans. I really like the Nordic coast. They will look really nice. And now let's just adjust their nanite fallback target. So we're gonna go to fallback target, percent triangles, 100, all good, and apply changes. And we're just gonna skip this. Oh, it's actually happening pretty quickly. Let's do this for all of them. The reason we're doing this is so that shadows and everything in path tracing will work nicely with these assets. We do lose a little bit of the nanite optimization, I suspect, but this is path tracing, so it's not something we're really worried about. And let's start placing these. So for example, I really like this particular rock because you can squish it down and get some really nice coastal looking cliffs. So because I want to play with the underwater refraction, we're gonna have to make our ocean water a lot more clear. And let's open up our material here and go into shallow water clarity and start adjusting this value. Now, ideally, if we adjust it too far, we're gonna see the underwater sort of atmospheric white plane that we spawned a while back. So let's see how this goes. So something like this is pretty good. And I suspect the best solution might be just to place a really big dark plane there. So let's go place actors. Plane here and make a really quick basic material. Calling it dark. And we really don't care for this material much. It's just going to be pitch black. Apply to our plane and make it really big. And now it's going to work as a little bit of a blocker for that white plane from it. And make sure it's not casting shadows or affecting indirect dynamic lighting or anything. So cool. Now things are looking quite nice. Is it being cut off by our plane? No, things are working as expected, so now we could keep adjusting our clarity over here. So we don't want to go too far because otherwise we're going to start getting the outline of the asset itself. And ideally we could populate additional assets and make a full-on underwater seabed, but it's not something we want to do at the moment. We just want to make like a sort of nice quick scene. And it's pretty cool because right now we could start messing with this and create a sort of really interesting looking underwater section. So because the way refraction works, we could actually see the outline of the asset over here. And this is why I'm doing this in path tracing, because underwater refraction works completely different to sort of the regular view mode. So this means is that ideally would want to or when all else fails, swap out the actor with another one. So let's go to Mega Scans. Maybe this one might be a better fit for what we're trying to do. There we go. This is looking pretty good. So right now, let's position our camera in a shot that we like. So something like this. With Control 1, we're going to save the bookmark for this, and that means if we start moving the camera around, we can revert to it. Something else I would like to do is maybe darken up the image a little bit, and this is pretty good. So in our outliner, let's grab our cliff and start building this scene. So I'm looking for kind of like some interesting shallows, and let's see what we could do with this idea. Something like little rocks poking through the water almost, but not quite. Something that you would see closer to a rocky shore. And I'm just going to keep copy pasting this same sort of asset and build out some pretty interesting sort of scene. Now, overall, this is kind of cool because the dark parts here, despite there being no basically nothing underneath, it can create the effect of the existence of a seaweed bed or something, much how you'd see in real life. And over here, I'd like to make a sort of really big asset like so. And you could see just by adding a little bit of underwater sort of coloring to it, we're kind of dramatically reducing the need for tile breaking, because this kind of really breaks up the way that the ocean surface looks and is being colored. So something like this, it's pretty good. And let's just position. Can be a bit difficult to grab the gizmo on the correct plane that we need. And there we go. Bring it out a bit lower. And how cool is that? We pretty much have a really nice looking sort of shallow ocean. Shore, more or less. And things are looking pretty good. Let's see, next I think I would just like to go and add in a few rocks poking above it. Let's see, this one is a pretty good candidate. Maybe not. Let's have a look at that very same rock. And this is what's cool about this, is that with some very basic adjustments with nanite and just stretching and breaking things, you can get some really nice asset variation. Now I've kind of moved the camera, but whoops, with one I can go back into the bookmark and start positioning these as needed. Maybe adjust the position of the sun a little bit. And there we go. This is really nice. Now we're kind of capturing a little bit of shadows, a little bit of specular of the waves. We're looking really nice. And let's just build out some interesting looking shapes. Careful so that the asset skirt isn't popping out of through the water surface. And let's see if we could simply rotate this asset in another location and make it look even more interesting. Hopefully without making it too obvious that they are the same rock. Now, if you've seen our other videos creating rocky coasts and cliffs, we could add a little bit of a wetness shader if we wanted to. We can make this really fancy. But in this case, this is just kind of like a quick sort of path tracing sketch with a nice ocean. Let's make this so. Oops. Now we're kind of getting a little bit too much of a repetition of this specific asset, so this kind of rocky outcrop over here. So let's see if we could maybe just avoid this with a little bit of an adjustment to the way the asset is positioned. I really like this sort of large shadow that kind of makes it look like a cove that's forming over here. So let's try and preserve that and maybe extend this a little bit more like so. And yeah, overall, this is looking pretty good. If we want, we could probably introduce a little bit of a tile break in this section over here. But yeah, this is pretty much almost good to go, I would say. Let's try and add something else in that sort of area. Now, we do have the boat assets from Twinmotion, and these used to be available for free. Not sure if they still are, but if you're an older sort of Unreal Engine user, you should have free access to these. And let's put a nice sailboat. Oops. I don't know how realistic it is given the... Yeah, probably not with this huge rudder beneath it and the overall shallows that we just created. But let's just roll with it. And we could adjust the overall scale of everything, but in this case, I think I'm just going to make the boat a little bit bigger than expected and just kind of... Let's see if we can rotate it in an interesting way where it catches the sun. Give it a little bit of a tilt. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. And for starters, something else that we could do is probably add a, let's just reset the rotation on this guy, really massive sort of background cliffs. or something that would be like another island. So we're gonna make this really nice and big and sort of push it all the way out to the horizon. And maybe rotate it a bit so it catches the sun. And let's just place a copy of it here as well to frame our boat a bit more. And let's give it a slight rotation so it's not too obvious that it is the same asset. So yeah, something like this. And oops, let's move it in world space a little bit. Or maybe simply add and there we go. I think we have a pretty good scene going on here. So one final thing, let's revert to our original camera. Something we could do is clear up the ocean even further by either adjusting the density factor and enabling the ground truth normals with the multiple samples of the displacement. But something else that we could also do is just experiment with some different lighting scenarios, see if we could come up with something more interesting. And yeah, because it's all being path traced and the ocean is looking very nice, it's all just looking as pretty much photorealistic as you expect. So, oh, something else I could add. This is not best practice, but some dirt mask and interesting. There we go. Just to test the effect a bit more, gonna lock it down, pull this menu in and go full screen. So 100 is a bit of an overkill, but given that this is sort of watery and you expect it to be a bit of sort of spray from the ocean getting on the camera, this is kind of realistic, I reckon. And yeah, if I were to take this a bit further, I guess I could play with the exponential height fog and manually fine-tune the color based on time of day. Because, for example, in this case, I would like to, oops, forgot I got rid of my details plane, is change the albedo to something dark blue. just to ground it a little bit better. And yeah, this is how you could pretty much use the Gen 4 Ocean to make some really awesome path traced shots, maybe short clips and whatnot. Just note that again, it is a much heavier sort of solution to run than our Gen 3 path tracer, although the results are probably definitely worth it because you get some higher quality normals and multiple ocean simulations and all that good stuff from the Gen 3 Ocean running. So yeah, go make awesome things.